Welcome to Quilting on the Side, the podcast for quilters who are building a business while juggling real life.
I'm Tori from Hey Tori, a quilter, past pattern designer and teacher, and now a digital marketing coach for quilting entrepreneurs.
And I'm Andi from True Blue Quilts, long arm quilter, pattern designer, and quilting instructor.
Between the two of us, we've taught workshops, launched programs, joined summits, and stayed up way too late trying to finish one more quilt binding.
On this show, we're sharing what's worked and what hasn't in our interviews from incredible guests, everyone from quilting solo business owners to CEOs.
So if you're running a quilting or creative business or dreaming about starting one, you'll find real talk, honest strategies, and a whole lot of support here.
So grab your notebook, grab your pen, and let's dive into another episode of Quilting on the Side. Welcome back for another episode of Quilting on the Side. Tori and I are so excited to talk today with Jennifer Long of Sew a Story. Thanks so much for being here, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you, Andi and Tori, for having me on today. I'm so excited to have a chat with both of you today and your audience.
Yeah, and we always start off with your first quilt. How'd you get into this craft?
My first quilt was actually in a home economics class in grade 7. It was just actually a panel that they taught us how we just bought a panel and they taught us how to hand quilt it. So that's actually what I learned how to do first of all, was to just do different kinds of quilting by hand in and around all of the panel. And I was like, wow, I was already really crafty. I was like in ballet, I was in dance. So I was making a lot of dance costumes and stuff. I was sewing, but I hadn't really entered like the quilts side completely. So that was my first exposure. But my first real pieced quilt wasn't until I met my husband. At the time I was 19 and he's from a small rural town and his mother was an avid quilter. And I was like, what is this? She's like cutting up all of this fabric and putting it together and making pictures. And I was a big sewist at the time too, like I said, but not really like in quilting in this way. And so I just sucked up everything that I possibly could from her and then from everybody else around me.
That's beautiful. How did you turn your hobby of sewing and quilting into a business?
It happened kind of organically. So I have 4 children, and so I did marry this man who I met at 19 and moved out to his small rural town. And we live in the country on a farm, and I ended up having 4 children. And I actually was running a dance studio at the time. I had just under 200 students, and I was making all of their recital costumes for them. Basically starting from January to May, it was a huge part of who I was. But when I had my first baby, I thought I could do it all. And I held him in my arms and I was like, I don't want to ever leave him. I wanted to stay home with him. And so I ended up keeping my studio for a year, but I ended up selling my dance studio and to stay home. But I was really, really, really busy and just love to sew and love to do things. So, I mean, I had been making quilts for him. I was making dolls and toys and stuff for him as well. But when I was finding myself at home with little children, I started making stuff for others. So I did a lot of custom quilting. I have a long arm, so I did a lot of custom quilting. I did a lot of memory quilts for people. And I also did a lot of dolls. So I did a lot of custom dolls that I made for people as well. And so that sort of was when my kids were really little. And while I was doing that, I was consuming every single pattern I could. I was reading patterns. I was just completely obsessed with patterns and started testing and tech editing for some people. So I started testing it just on the side. I was just so obsessed with them. And I ended up testing for a dear friend of mine now. She's a Riley Blake fabric designer. And ended up just kind of like getting into that world through that. And I started testing patterns for people, and they started saying, "You're catching all kinds of things. Can you write my patterns for me?" So this was like, I'm talking, I don't want to date myself too much, but this was like 20 years ago. So this was kind of when the industry was shifting between um, having like images so digital as they are now to, people used to take, like, write their instructions and take photographs and things. And so the, that I've sort of seen the industry shift with that as well. And so I just started like writing and tech editing, everything kind of, it's called ghost writing. So like doing stuff behind the scenes. I did that when my children were little and just loved. I still really love it, but I don't do it for others anymore. But because I could do it when my kids were napping, or I could do it when my husband was home, or I could just you do it early mornings, and it was just fabulous. And it was like it's creative, but still like linear. And so that's kind of how I got into the industry. And it wasn't until my youngest went to kindergarten that I was like, I feel like I have something to offer the world, and I wanted to see if I could share my own art and my own like passions and skills and design fabric. And so I don't know if you want this whole story continued, but okay, I
Yes,
did.
please. We love it.
I I was at the time working for a number of fabric companies, like pattern writing for them. And I knew in my heart I wanted to design for Riley Blake Designs. I just felt really aligned with the owners of the company. I felt really aligned with the style of the company and other designers at the company. And so I put a gorgeous portfolio together and submitted it, and it was rejected. And I think it's really important for people to know that because um, I was super heartbroken. And, I thought that was everything. I mean, I had been kind of behind the scenes in the industry for a very long time. And I was like, oh, okay. And so all my friends in my circle that were in the industry were like, oh, that's okay. Just apply to another company. Like somebody's going to take this. And I just felt in my heart, no, I did not want to. I was like, I just want to work with Riley Blake. And so, yeah, just love them. And so I waited a whole year, and it was actually the best thing I could have done, I think. And so I took that whole year, and I was still like, working and making stuff for other people and writing for other people. But I took that whole year to look at my work and look at it analytically. After I got over the emotion of being rejected, I looked at it analytically, and I was like, what do I have to offer that nobody else has to offer? Where can I fill a gap at Riley Blake Designs? And I really just spent that whole year. I actually designed 3 more collections, and I went back and I just said, like, this is the hole that I'm filling. This is this is my strengths. This is where I'm at. And they said a resounding yes. And I had 2 collections in that first month. So yeah, it's it's pretty it's pretty amazing. And I was always taught, like, no doesn't mean no. It just means like it just means kind of like what can you do better? And so now looking back at the first portfolio that I've submitted, I'm actually grateful and thankful that I didn't, because I wasn't ready. And I can say this now, but Riley Blake Designs, knowing what who they are and where they are and what kind of company they are, they could see that. And so, I actually am thankful and grateful that they gave me that opportunity to like find my voice even stronger.
That is so smart to take a step back and you mentioned other people saying just submit somewhere else, and I think a lot of designers take that kind of shotgun approach and send their work everywhere, but it sounds like you were really intentional about understanding the company you wanted to work for and making sure you were a fit for their overall aesthetic, design world. So good for you. I'm glad it worked out.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's important to me. I mean, it's important to me to do something that I love, excuse me, but it's also important to me to do it with integrity and to do it with, like if you're working with these people, you want to make sure that you are like fully aligned with the people that you're working with and with the company that you're working with. And like fabric design is such a gift, and I don't take it for granted any day. I definitely feel like um, I didn't understand all of the things, even when I could see into the industry from the inside. I don't think I understood all of the things and how it all works. Fabric works so ahead, like so far ahead. So it just feels so different. I thought I would be like just sewing with my fabric and just get to enjoy one collection at a time, but it doesn't quite work like that. You're always like working on the next collection, but it's also it's amazing.
So you mentioned ghostwriting, pattern design, fabric design. What are you doing currently with your business?
Yeah, so my business is Sew a Story. I should preface it by saying that between the time that I graduated high school, I was dancing professionally in the ballet, but I was like not thinking that was like necessarily a career, even though I did teach a little bit and I had my own studio. I did my early childhood education degree because I thought, well, maybe I'll do this till I was 30. I don't know how long I thought I would do it for. So I had my early childhood education degree, and so, like I mentioned, when I had my first son, I have a boy, girl, girl, boy, but to me, it doesn't even really matter the gender. Like when I had my children, I always knew I wanted to like make for them, but I didn't realize how powerful handmade was going to be to a child. And it was like transformational for me. So as like an early childhood educator, I understood that like connection with your child and spending time with them, crafting, having them lead the play. Understood a lot of those kinds of concepts, but I wasn't prepared to see it in my own child. um like take something that I had made handmade, whether they were napping when I made it or not, they just knew that it was handmade and they could like feel it and hold it in a different way. And so, you know how it's so kind of cliche when they say like stitched with love? It 1,000% is, and people can feel it. So if you think about like making a quilt for someone else, or you make a quilt, for a senior or for like an elderly or for a child, they are really like wrapped in love. And that is not a cliche. That is actually like true. And I can see that in the most innocent child, because my children would take these things that I made, which now looking back are not my best work, but they would take these things. It didn't matter to them. They would take these things and they would treat them more special than the other toys. They would, at the end of the night, they would throw their other stuff into the toy bin, and these toys or balls or blankets or like pieces of fabric that they would dress up with would like lay out in a more special way. And I didn't ask them to do that. I didn't give it to them that way. That was like a surprise to me. And when that happened, I just kind of knew that that was where I needed to like pour myself into. So, Sew a Story is kind of my ballet background about like storytelling through fabric, because I just love textile, and with a child focus, but really less than a child focus. It's more like a family focus, and it's a storytelling focus because I don't consider myself in necessarily the juvenile area, although I definitely could be. I consider myself more like in the nostalgic, so like more of like the storytelling nostalgic area. And um so yeah, that's, I don't even know where your question was anymore, but that's where I was kind of going with all of that. And that's how I decided to niche and focus down in where I am.
Yeah, I think that answered it because I was asking about what your business is like currently. So yeah.
Okay. I can still go on to that if you want. Okay. So so then I was going to say, so all of that information would like um provide for the business. So the business is, so with the like, I guess the North Star, the pillar of fabric, because I don't have control over what collections come or when. I mean, I can design them, but I don't know when they'll be released, or I don't know when anything will happen. So with that, kind of my business revolves around my fabric, but I do have two memberships in there. And one little part of my story is when my kids, because there's so many layers to us as humans and stuff. As I was working with my children when they were little and creating dolls and toys and stuff for them, I did take digitizing courses, and this was back in like the very, very, very early 2000s. Um, and so I did learn how to digitize, and I learned how to digitize specifically for doll making. And so I created dolls that could be done in the hoop. I actually designed a number of dolls for companies overseas as well when my kids were little, for production, mass production. And so I have a membership in my world about dolls, and dolls are like a big part of storytelling for me, and it's a big part of my art and everything else, just characters. They look like this. I have one here. This is a sneak peek. Yeah.
So
And then
it's coming out
he's
later.
coming out actually next month. Next
Okay.
month inside the membership. Yep. And then I have a pattern club because I we do like quilt patterns and sewing craft patterns as well. So it's really like a lovely. It's like the place I want to be all of the time. Like if I go on holidays, I just want to be back and sew a story, because it's like the people are like creative and imaginative and supportive, and the we just all want like to be creative and tell stories, and so it's a fantastic place. And I am creating something new, which I've wanted to do. I don't know if this is the right time to say it or not.
Go ahead.
Okay. um I am creating something new. It's actually going to be like talked about for the first time tomorrow, which is August 1st. I don't know when this will be shared, but I can share it now. It's something that's been in my heart for a very long time, and I just haven't been able to put the energy into it. So I'm kind of taking the momentum and the energy that I would design into a whole like fabric collection and putting it into this. So it's called Crafting Connections, and it's really going to be the one thing that anybody can do. So it's not necessarily fabric, although it is fabric. It could be felt, it could be paper, but it's bringing all of these story characters together in just 10 minutes. So with 10 minutes, you can craft a connection with your child. And it's about yeah, it's amazing opportunity. I'm going to do a whole free workshop week at the end of August for it, and then we'll open up the doors in September, and it's just going to be 6 weeks, and it's different projects. We'll do things like felt masks. I feel like I invented, I can't find it anywhere else in the world, so I'll share it now. Like toilet paper tubes. We're just going to like print out the characters on them. I've designed them to wrap around, and they will actually be able to make their own dolls in 10 minutes, like a whole family on paper tubes. So things that you have at home. Um, yeah, so just different ideas like this. And I'm going to be walking through a couple of skills in there, and just multiple ages, because this is like what I was trained to do, is like, share how you connect with kids. And the amazing part that I know firsthand, I mean, my baby is now 20, but the amazing thing that I can see is that creativity is not necessarily only for crafting. Like you guys know that, right? Like the skills that you can bring to children and to yourself when you're being creative can like change the trajectory of their life. Like my son's doing his ag degree, and he is like got his hands. He's not afraid to stick his hands like in the machine and take parts of it out. And I feel like this is part because we let him be as creative as he wanted to be. And so, yeah, he's not working with fabric, but that doesn't mean that the skills he didn't learn as a child are not translating into what he's doing. And so crafting this connection. And the last thing I wanted to say about crafting connections is that like, this is why I think quilting circles are so powerful too, is that you can share with someone in a much more vulnerable way when you are working on a cumulative project than you can when you just sat down with your child and was like, tell me about your day. What happened today? They're not going to open up in the same way. That is, if you are working on a project together and they're feeling this connection, and they can take that project after and play with it. And so there's all these layers to it, but that's where my heart really is right now. And I wanted to share that with the world. So that's what's coming in August and September.
I absolutely love that. I shared earlier, I think before we recorded, I have a 3 and a 6-year-old. So I'm right in the middle of where your ideal audience is. And I see the power in crafting. I did a lot during COVID with my 6-year-old, who now, oh no, he's 7 now. What am I saying? He's 7 now. It's only been 7 for like a month.
Go, where does it go?
But we did a lot of crafting, and I see the difference between his imagination, the way he's not afraid, like you said, to build something new, to try something new or to understand something more complicated because we were going through some more complicated crafts because his brain was ready for it versus my 3-year-old who is just now starting that age where we could actually get the glue out and experiment a little bit and get the paint out and let her just play on paper and stuff like that. So I just wanted to share that experience because I think I want to emphasize that what you're saying is true, and I'm seeing it currently in my life with my own kids. And I just wanted to ask before we change the subject, where can we sign up for that? Because I'm really interested. This will coming out probably end of August, really early September. So where can we sign up for that?
Yeah, so just come to sewastory.com. I can share a URL with you if you want to drop it directly. But sewastory.com, you'll see on our landing page on August 1st will be a link to the free workshop. The free workshop is called 10-Minute Magic. You're going to get like this whole paper roll family, this whole paper doll roll family. You'll get videos to share how it was. So you can kind of start to get a taste of what it'll be like. And I'm actually working with Benzie Felt as well to get, I'm going to do a free mask workshop as well on the weekend too, to build some masks. And so I wanted to give that to our audience. We have a highly engaged, like I said, audience at Sew a Story. And we did a poll in 2024, so right at the end of last year, kind of what they wanted. And it was this. Um, I mean, they helped me shape it in a way. Like, they said, what are what are your pain points? What's your barriers from working with your child? Time, resounding time. So that's why we're doing it in 10 minutes. Number 2 is multiple ages and knowing what to do. Number 3 was like maybe not feeling like crafty or creative enough that they could know how to teach their child. And then number 4 was just too busy and just, like didn't have the space or like the organization to pull it all together. And so that really helped me shape. I mean, I kind of felt that, but it really helped me organize, I would say, what everyone's looking for, I think, and what we need for our families. And even more so now with like screens, we didn't deal with this when my kids were little, but I mean, I still have a 12-year-old right now, and he's extremely active, but like, I mean, even for ourselves, the screens just like pull them in, and I can feel it like when he's been on the screen for, playing PS5 for too long. um, he's different, right? Like, you know what I mean? He's maybe like snappier with his sister, and like maybe like he's shorter attention span and just all of these things. And I know, okay, well, time to like ground him. And I just mean like 10 minutes connecting, 10 minutes hands on with something. It doesn't have to be a big thing. And that's like the whole purpose. And so I feel like it's such a need in our world too right now.
Yeah, I love all the slow stitching movement that, if we just start doing something with our hands, creating rather than consuming, it does a world of good for our mental health and, spread the peace and joy in the world.
I wonder,
And I,
do a hard left here and
yes,
take a
do
step
it.
back because we've
Yes.
had a lot of questions about fabric design and we have a fabric designer with us. So I'm
Okay.
really curious if you can answer this, but I think you can. But what's the process like from you design fabric to actually seeing it on the bolt?
So it's different for every type of designer. So it just depends on what type of art they do and how they design. I'll just speak to myself and how I do it. So I start with like a brain dump. I actually have like just a couple of Google Docs where I have to give like life to the ideas. So I literally have the next 70 years of fabric collections on this Google Doc. Gosh, it's probably worth $10 million. No, I don't know. I'm just joking. But like all those ideas are just on there. And then before I even begin, like when I'm just deciding, okay, what should I do? I do a few things. So I decide like what do I want to make? But then what I want to make, what's calling me isn't always this isn't the right time because maybe there's something else I liked. I try not to look too much outwards, but you have to at the beginning to see, like I don't know, did a mermaid collection just come out at Riley Blake Designs? If it did, I probably won't get a mermaid collection for a few years, for example. So if I wanted to do a mermaid collection, I shouldn't invest it all this time in it right now because I'm probably not. Maybe I would. I don't know, but it's just I try to like it's kind of like you have to do the work first before you submit it. So even when you are a fabric designer, you still have to pose the idea, put the concepts out, do a lot of the work. I actually do almost a whole finished collection, or sometimes even more than a finished collection, like more SKUs than they will take, and the quilt patterns before I submit the idea because it has like the most likelihood of coming. And so the process is I kind of just like actually start with color usually first. So I usually like pull together, and Riley Blake is fantastic now because we have like over 300 confetti cotton colors. So I usually like pull together like a color palette. It might not be what I end up with, but it's like sort of like a jumping off point for me. And then I just start to like actually do just a brain dump of like ideas and words. And so I'm like, okay, so let's just use a mermaid for example. I would just like start thinking about all of the icons and things that I wanted to draw for this collection that I'm going to need. So I'm going to like write them all down. Then this is like the most fun part because then I can just like go away and just draw all these things without having necessarily a purpose for them in mind. I just like draw more than I need. Then I take them into a program like called Adobe Illustrator. And I just start to play with them. So I know some designers actually do their main print last. It just depends what type of designer. The main print is a story for me. So I usually actually start with the main print and it takes the longest. Actually, no, my panels take the longest. But the so I start with the main print and I usually try to do like a pretty substantial main print with like a lot of story in it. And then I start to like choose the colorways. At Riley Blake, we do 3 colorways. Not every company does that. So I sort of choose the colorway. Normally I maybe have 5 to start. And then I start to do the secondary prints and the blender prints. Usually my blender prints are last unless it was like really like I had it there already. And I kind of just like sort of like fill in the gaps. And I do each repeat pattern on a separate Illustrator file, but then I have to bring them all together to see how they work together. And it's a lot. This is actually I think after you have it all drawn and laid out, this is the most time consuming part for me is like, then you maybe have like, so, if we have 3 times 7 SKUs, 3 colorways and 7 SKUs is what we end up with. Maybe I have 5 colorways and 10 SKUs. So you could have like 50 patterns, repeat patterns in front of you, and you're trying to decide what doesn't look good together. Like this looks really good by itself, but maybe not in this whole collection. And that's, I think, where it starts to get like, it can get bogged down in that part because it's just a lot of decision making. And this hard decision making is hard. And then I start looking at it and I'm like, if I know what kind of quilt pattern I want, then I'm like, I know that I need a green, for example, because I'm going to do seaweed. So then I know I'm going to need to have at least like 3 greens. So I'm going to make sure like it starts to kind of become this puzzle that you put together. Now, not every fabric designer designs their own quilt patterns. So, I can't speak to like how everybody else does it, but for my collections, because I see it from the beginning all the way through the end, I'm seeing it as like the full collection there. So then I still over submit. So then I have it like narrowed down with my patterns that the company, so rather they can see it. But then they still will like have other information that I don't have. So they would know like maybe there's too many collections with blue in it coming out in January. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but like things like this, maybe that they might have that information I don't have. So they might say your pink is too pink. It needs to be peachy. So you kind of go back and start playing. We need more non-directional prints. Your prints are too directional. I'm just like, they have an amazing art director. And so then you start working back and forth. And even though you're working back and forth, it doesn't mean that the collection is still happening or happen. Like it's still like part of this process, right? But if you can get that collection to a spot where it's like everyone is like, yes, that is correct, then they say it's coming out in this release, and you get all your files ready. So I get all my Illustrator files ready for production. And I don't know if you're asking about how, I'm not like sure on the entire process, but Rodley Blake prints their like screen prints their fabric. So you have to have a limited amount of colors on, you can only have up to 18 colors on a print total. And you don't always want 18 colors on a print because that's sometimes too many anyways, but you can have up to 18. And we just kind of go through it that way. We get strike-offs that come back to us. So that's why fabric takes so long. So like all of that was happening before anybody has even seen this idea or concept or sold one thing. And then it starts to sell to shops. But while it's being sold to shops, we're going through strike off with the company. So then they'll like screen print a couple and you're like, this purple doesn't match that purple. We need to tone this one down. You get like up to 3. And yeah, then you just, then the fun really starts again because you get to have like your early yardage. And, I really try to support shops with like sew-alongs and other types of ways that, if you can show customers how you're using fabrics and projects that you're using fabrics and ways you're using fabrics, then they want to go to the shops. And when they see it at the shops, they hopefully want it as well too. So I really try to support the shops in that way too. And then if you think of that so that might be like a year or more, depending on when you started that collection. And then you kind of like layer other collections over it because you can't, if you waited a whole year till you started the next one, it would actually be 2 years between collections. So, so yeah, it's like, so I usually feel like at Christmas, I'm like, oh, Christmas is actually Halloween. Summer is actually Halloween. Like, like it's like, oh, yeah. So
Yeah, you're kind of disconnected from reality because you're living according to this other schedule, and you have to be able to turn that off, which leads to my question. How do you structure your time so that you have this creative design work and yet you're also, creating specific things for your business, for your sew-alongs, for your memberships, and then, what does that balance look like between the different tasks?
well, I don't have the balance all figured out.
We're
It's always a
juggling, we
work in progress.
understand.
Yeah, it's always a work in progress. But I know that I am the most creative when my brain is the most free. So like being able to do a lot of the heavy stuff early in the week or early in the day, maybe the stuff you don't want to do in your business or that you don't love to do in your business. If you get a lot of that stuff done, then it like opens up space for it. It's almost like you get to have your dessert and create, but you also can't like force a collection. I don't know. I've had a collection that has like come together in like, I just couldn't stop. I couldn't get it out fast enough. It was like pouring out of me. And then I have not had, I have collections that I have like 3/4 started and they've just stalled out. And I will revisit them again because they're good, but they just aren't, I'm just not like there. Or maybe I was like 3/4 through and then I just saw somebody else in a different company had something similar and I have to like shelve it for a while now. So yeah, yeah, I just have to kind of yeah, you kind of have to just sort of like balance it all out. I mean, I think you can, it's a illusion to think that all you do is like sit and get to be creative. It's like a small portion of it. It's like if you have any kind of business, um, the one thing that maybe you are doing in your business that I mean, I love so many parts of my business, but the one thing that you're doing for your business is not 90% of your time necessarily. Yes.
I love that you found a way to keep going with these collections with the fabric design, but also work in memberships to where you can constantly be in with the people and doing the things that you love to do, along with being able to be a fabric designer. I love how you got those pieces together. I think that that was very smart. And you talked about not having balance, but it sounds like you have some balance. And balance doesn't mean you're perfectly balanced all the time, but that you've got enough to where you look from the way that you're speaking about it, you seem like you feel fulfilled. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it, Tori. Yeah, I just mean a work in progress because it's always so. I just did another priority, like brain dump, or check basically. And so this is why I am looking like this is because one of my priorities is to exercise every morning. And um, it's so easy as mothers, as women, as like creative entrepreneurs to put ourselves last. And I'm very, very guilty of that. And I'm really making a concerted effort to try to fill my cup a little bit. And I exercise is a big part of who I am, and I have not always been very consistent with it. And so I was just running before this and I was like, oh my goodness, 20 minutes to the podcast. That's why I look like this. But um, you know, it's okay. So it's messy and it's not totally perfect, but I got it in today. And so that's like that's what I mean about it. It's like not the perfect balance. And I don't know if that perfect balance is if it is achievable, but just having some, yeah, some parts of it. And yes, I do feel fulfilled. This is where I am right now, I will say, is beyond where I thought I could. But every time I reach a goal, and I think this is like what we were taught at the ballet, but every time I reach a goal, am like grateful and I believe in God, so I'm like thankful to God for it. And then I feel like what is next for me kind of and I sort of can open up your brain and I don't know, I'll just tell you this one image because I just feel it's so powerful. It's actually an early childhood image too, but it's like called like circle of security. I don't know if you've heard of that or not, but like if when you have like a toddler, their circle of security is like maybe mom, and that's it. And it's like good that they are in that, but it's also really healthy that they go out. Not that you force them out, but it's healthy if they wander out, then they go a little and they feel scared and then they come back into the circle of security. And it happens like consistently throughout like, school age, teenagers, and even we think as soon as you turn 18 that stops, but it doesn't stop. Like, for me too, like, go and you speak at Garden of Quilts and you're like so nervous the first time. And then after that, you're like, wow, I love this. I could do this. Now I can speak at Quilt Market. Then after you do that once, you're like, wow, I really love this. Now I can like do the next thing. And so like your circle of security keeps like um increasing too, and not just like security, but like of what you think is possible in the world. And so when you do something like you do fabric design or anything else in the world, or like my son is doing like opening up tractors and fixing them, when you do that once, then you're like confidence in that area grows and you think I now I can do it on like a combine, or now I can do it on a bigger stage. And so it's just like it naturally kind of grows and evolves, and it's such a beautiful thing to come through.
Thank you for sharing that. I have people in mind that I think will find that message really powerful, really powerful.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't know what you can do until you try it. So you definitely need to keep expanding your skills and abilities and options. And uh, yeah, it might not work out, but it's like, oh my dear, what if you fly? Go for it.
No, and as children, we like encourage our children and our teenagers, and we push them out of the nest to get to do these things. And then for some reason, as adults, we're like, nope, uncomfortable right here, And so it's like, but if you go a little uncomfortable, you're just uncomfortable for a little bit, but then you're just got this larger circle, and then you just keep kind of growing. And I feel like so, I don't know. That's just how I try to approach everything.
And I love the fact that earlier in what you were saying, you were talking about prioritizing and listing out the priorities again. I love that because I've done that 4 times this year, and it's July. Like as we're recording this, I've done that 4 times, and it's been empowering every single time. And my priorities haven't necessarily shifted too much, but it was a great reminder to sit down and prioritize what am I working towards and what do I need to say yes to right now, especially when we've got these new opportunities coming constantly. Like, should I join this summit? Should I launch this pattern? Should I participate here? And oh no, Black Friday is going to come soon. Should I participate in Black Friday? And it's great to sit down and go through your priorities again and make sure that you are still on the right track, and then decide, are these opportunities something I want to embrace, or is this something I can put off? And I like how you said shelve it. I'm going to say that again, especially because you got, if you're not watching this, she's got beautiful fabric on the shelves behind her, and I keep admiring how she's got this set up right behind her. It looks great. So if you want to check out our YouTube, it looks amazing. So shelve it for later, and then you can come back with, I think, new energy when you do that too. When you're able to prioritize what's important to you, you come back at the harder parts with more energy. And I love that you shared that whole thing. It's been an amazing interview. Andy, do you have any last minute questions before we start our rapid fire?
No, let's dive into it.
Okay, let's do it.
So our first question, we take that idea of favorite color and flip it and say, what color do you actually struggle with to incorporate in your designs? Is there one?
Um, I was gonna say like yellow, although recently I've had two collections that have had a yellow in them, but it's not a color that I get drawn to as the primary color of the collection. So yellow is definitely a harder one for me for some reason, because it's a beautiful, happy, I mean, it's right there. It's a beautiful, happy color. Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm curious about your answer for this. What is your preferred, what's your favorite, yardage or pre-cuts?
Oh, my favorite pre-cut, like that question,
No,
or
whether you
yardage?
prefer to work with
Oh,
yardage or pre-cuts.
oh, yardage. That's
I thought so.
I okay, like I love to work. How about this? I love to work with yardage, and I love to collect pre-cuts.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you were saying that you make doll patterns, and those typically come with the sections printed on a panel. So I can see how that naturally doesn't fit with the typical quilter's idea of pre-cuts, but those are definitely fun projects.
I just really love like just I don't know, I just really love yardage. I love how it's folded. I love the selvage on it. I actually love to keep the selvage on it. I just feel like there's all these like extra special things
And
in
I think
yardage.
Riley Blake is one of the top companies for creative selvages, so
They let us design our own selvage usually. So I just yeah, it just and I just love how it like feels and smells and how it's folded and it's crisp. I
fabric is wonderful.
know it is, yeah.
And when you are creating, what is your favorite notion?
Oh, well, I have to say, I have a notion that I designed with Riley Blake. It's called a quilty hemostat. And it's like a long, it's kind of like a long scissors, but it's like actually a medical tool. My mom was a OR nurse when I was a child, and I use it for like stuffing, but I use it for turning. I use it for like taking threads out all the time. And I designed one with Riley Blake. It's a very nice length, and it's got like a design and a coated handle on it too. So that would be my favorite notion.
Fun.
Next question is, what is the most rewarding part of your business?
Oh, this is an easy one. I think connecting with people, both like in person. I just love doing stuff in person and connecting with people. But I started just recently doing lives again. I had done it before COVID. I had done lives like before, and I actually stopped during COVID because I was home. Like we were forced to homeschool our kids, so I actually stopped during COVID, and my kids were, still like teenagers that needed a lot of help and stuff. But so I started doing lives again. I was like, I really miss this. And I just started doing Tuesday morning lives again. And I love it so much because you just can like hear what people want, connect with them. And it's just like feeling, yeah, just feeling like you can talk about something that you love with people all around the world. It's just amazing. So I would say the connection.
And what platform do you go live on?
But again, we're just like working out bugs, but I go live on multiple platforms at the same time. So on YouTube, so our YouTube channel, which is So a Story, our Facebook page. We just figured out how to go live on Instagram. Don't know how to save it on Instagram yet, if you can save lives or not, but can go live on Instagram. And then I have two Facebook groups as well, so I go live in those groups as well at the same time. So, and the all the comments come through at once, so I can see whatever platform people want to come through. So it's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Hopefully
Do you have
people check those out.
do you have a software you use to do all that? Is it like StreamYard or I'm so
Yeah, it's
curious.
not StreamYard. It's I'll find what it is because StreamYard, I don't think you can go live to Instagram.
No, Ecamm is, yeah, we'll have look for it and let us know, and we'll make sure we get it in the show notes for people, because
Perfect. I'll do
some of
that.
these, little technical tricks are super useful as people figure out their.
Stream. I just remembered. It's called Restream.
Oh, yeah, 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 I have
Yes.
heard of that. Restream with
Yes.
an R.
Uh-huh.
So very nice. Um, Thanks for tolerating that little tangent. Who or what is inspiring you these days, whether it's in the quilting world, in the fabric design business, or just in your personal life? Can you share?
Ooh. Um. Wow. Well, I would say that like not a surprise, but like the art, art. And I don't. I mean, like visual art, like theater, ballet, that going to see shows like that is so inspiring for me. I mean, I just have a Spoonful of Sugar collection coming out, and that was directly, I was actually at a live performance of Mary Poppins with my girls. It was a musical. And I texted my art director from there. I was like, I have the entire collection in my head just watching this. So she's like, um, so just, I think that is where I probably find the most inspiration for me because it just calls to me and it kind of tells a story. So also I
Yeah,
love
for
reading
sure.
children's books.
Yeah, and I have seen a lot. I really commend Riley Blake for doing that, for taking some of those classic stories and allowing their artists and the quilters they collaborate with to run with it. I just saw John over at Art East Company is coming out with a Peter Pan themed pattern and Riley Blake is kidding that. So, and of course, all of your story based designs are wonderful and really, that is one of the ways that we as adults connect with children are through these classic stories. So, it's,
Amazing. Amazing. Yes.
yeah.
Well, last rapid fire is how many quilts are in the room with you right now? And you could estimate if you're not sure.
In this room right now, do they have to be finished?
You define it. So if you want to exclude or include as much as
I
you
would
want.
say there's 10 finished in here, and I don't know. It's too hard to know unfinished. Maybe 10 unfinished. Though we just built we have a farmyard, right? So we just built a shed, not necessarily for my quilts, but if you think about it, like I actually sometimes make two of each quilt for every collection, because I make one with digital yardage for Quilt Market, and then I often make it again with the actual yardage because they're different. Just you can't get early yardage because it's screen printed. So when Quilt Market and stuff comes out, you can't get it. So I don't know what I would estimate. It would be over the 100 mark for sure, of quilts that I have made in my fabrics that I have kept, because I've obviously made tons for other people. And then when I started designing for Riley Blake, and each time like releasing so you could grow, I've also donated, I would say like 60 quilts for sure, completely finished, because you can't keep all of those quilts.
Right. And that was my question because having been a pattern designer myself and I've written a book, so you have a dozen quilts that connect to this book and you feel like you need to keep them because you might do a trunk show for it and blah blah blah. But is that the plan, is that you intend to donate? Is there a typical lifespan for a collection that you need to keep referring to, or do you like it just because these are, obviously they came from you and they connect to your story? So,
So I have been donating like the digital versions of the quilts after a lifespan, like after 3 years or something, and the fabric collection is maybe not available anywhere else. Because then I also lend quilts out to like shops, and I lend them out to like just other events too. But I think I would always keep a quilt of each that I designed and designed the fabric for, especially those, because I've designed like every part of it. So I think I always will. And, maybe I'll end up, I have 4 kids, so I'm hoping for lots of grandkids. Uh, so, I can only hope for 16. Let's just put that out there in the world. So if they, each get a couple of quilts, I got to get going on it.
that's a wonderful plan.
So before we end today, we want to ask you, where can people connect with you?
Yeah, so sewastory.com is the website, and so basically you can connect anywhere through there. That would be like the best place to start. If you're interested in memberships, I really try to keep those super reasonable, like sometimes even less than the cost of a pattern. So I'd love to have you join us there. I would love to have you join on a live. So a Tuesday live we do 11 a.m. Central on Tuesdays and all the platforms, and follow me everywhere. And then come to the free 10-minute magic workshop in August. I think it's August. I want to say like 20. I should know my dates. So just came off a run. August 20, I'll say, that week. So yes.
Sounds good. And we'll make sure people hop over to the website and can stay current on all of those release dates. But thank you so much for being here and chatting with us and giving us that behind the scenes look at fabric design. It's been wonderfully inspiring and educational. Thank you.
It's been an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
That was a great conversation with Jennifer.
I loved getting to know her. What a great business she's built for herself. And she's got such gorgeous designs and all built around that idea of story. It's so much fun. What was your biggest takeaway from hearing Jennifer's story?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. I think so. Mine is probably her design process. I've always been really curious about that. I've never been someone who wanted to do fabric design, but I was always curious how they got their designs from computer to like actual fabric. So it was really cool to hear her entire process, which I was really excited that she went into detail about how she gets from idea to fabric creation on her end. And I found that really, really valuable for my own curiosity. How about you, Andi?
I am always impressed by people's ability to listen because I know that's an area that I can always improve in. And she had two instances that stood out to me where she really paid attention and listened to what wasn't being said, what was being said. And one was when she first approached Riley Blake as a designer. She said she got rejected first. So, hang tough if you're facing that closed door at the moment. It's just not yet. She really listened to their feedback. She studied the market and figured out where she could fit in. And I thought that was so smart. And then she also mentioned listening to her audience and, when she was ready to promote a new venture with her Create a Connection, that she really tailored it to what her audience was asking for. She asked them what they were struggling with, where they needed help. And then she was able to take this idea she had and really mold it into the best version it could be that would have the best chance of success because it was meeting people's needs. And I know I am guilty of, I'm going to put this out in the world because I like it and not necessarily because other people are asking for it. So that's always a good lesson for me, is to listen to the audience.
I think it's powerful because also if you do have something that you really like, there's probably others who like it. And it's just taking that opportunity to, and I think you're wiser now than you were before of, I like this thing. Who else likes this thing? And how can I maybe twist it, turn it, position it to where it is answering their objections? But that's a great takeaway too, listening to your audience. I know that's been one before, but it's crucial, I think, in business is to really take the time to listen and understand where another person or company is coming from and really tailoring what you're doing to that so that you have a great offer for everybody.
Yeah, and we of course value our listeners, our audience so much. So thank you to our listeners as well for being here for Quilting on the Side.
That's a wrap on today's conversation. We hope it gave you something real to take back to your business.
And if you liked this episode, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more quilters find the show and feel a little less alone on their entrepreneurial journey.
And if you want more support from behind the scenes content to live chats, you'll find more in our Quilting on the Side community on Patreon. And as always, don't forget to do
a little quilting on the side.